She's gross. That's what I think of Lila.
Honestly, I wanted to swing. I really wanted to swing.
Women are dying right now from legal abortions. The media is lying to you guys.
If I had carried a term, I would be labeled a drug-addicted black mother.
Are you not going to feel Catholic guilt when all the women are dying in parking lots from illegal abortions?
Women are dying right now from legal abortions.
I get to choose what happens to my body. I didn't get to make that choice with that.
If she gave birth to that child, she would never be able to have children again.
Drug addiction, sex work. I'm a proud pro-ho.
Abortion can add trauma.
Make an argument of why the government or you or anyone knows better for my body than me.
So I'd love to respond.
How you know better about my body than me?
Do you want the government to protect you from being killed? Are you saying that if a child is being abused, then we should be in support of killing that child?
And when I am sitting here with a 10-year-old child who didn't have a choice, to then say, you must carry that child.
Okay, so do you know the number one emotion women get after having an abortion is relief?
Are you referring to the Turnaway Study with that information?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the Turnaway Study has been heavily debunked because it's done by those that support abortion, and they said they were going to follow 1,000 women to see if there was an abortion regret after their abortions. Only 150 women would complete the study with them. The rest of them dropped off, some of them struggling with issues maybe connected to that abortion, but only 150 completed it. So that's a survey of only 150 women. And again, I think we need to look at women at large and their experiences. And there will be some women who say, well, I feel great, I'm good, this is good, I don't regret it. And then there's a lot of women whose stories aren't being told.
But you don't look at women at large with their experiences.
That's what we do. And those women deeply regret their abortions. They feel scarred by their abortions. Some of them suffer mental health issues afterwards.
That's not true at all. 95% of people who got abortions said it was the right decision
for them.
You're
referring to the Turnaway Study, which is only following
a statistic. You could search that up.
I think it's better to look at a study like the Medicaid study in California. 200,000 women, not 150 women doing a study with a pro-abortion group. It was a California 200,000 survey of women. Of those that had abortions, they were 150% more likely to commit suicide than those that gave birth and did not have abortions. In Finland, there were 2 studies done of women there that found that women who had abortions had a higher likelihood of committing suicide than women who did not have abortions. People deserve to know this. Okay. Women deserve to know this because when they have an abortion, that's a huge life-altering decision, not just for ending the life of a baby, but it's life-altering for the woman.
So I'm going to tell you about what happened to my best friend's mom. She had a late-term abortion, which I know you don't find morally acceptable, but
How far along was she?
I'm not sure the exact week, but she was told that her child would not live for more than 1 hour. However, if she gave birth to that child, she would never be able to have children again. That is literally what they told her. I'm so glad that she was able to get an abortion because my best friend wouldn't be alive if her mother wasn't able to have an abortion before she was even born. So I just yeah, there are some women who regret abortions, but we shouldn't just ban all abortions because of some of those women regretting it.
So
there are many women.
I'd love to respond. I've heard so many stories of medical professionals who tell the woman, you have to have an abortion, X, Y, and Z is their opinion, right? Mm-hmm. And then I talk to many other medical professionals. If I can finish, I talk to many other medical professionals who say, if you have a high-risk pregnancy or there's a disability that the baby has, there is healthcare for you to protect both your life and the baby's life. That's what women deserve. They don't deserve to be told by the abortionist or the doctor, just kill this baby, that's the solution, have the abortion. So we can do better for both the mom and the baby.
But isn't she protecting
Dr. Anthony, just as an example, Dr. Anthony Levatino, he worked with tens of thousands of high-risk pregnancies in upper state New York, dealing with these very high-risk pregnancies. He said in the number of pregnancies where we had to do an abortion was 0. Sometimes we would have to do an early delivery, but we would never have to intentionally kill the baby to deal with the health risk for the mother.
So medically necessary, right?
So correct. And so as an example, your friend, right? You said she had a late-term abortion because her baby had a health issue and was going to die, and then otherwise she would have an issue. The doctor, and Dr. Anthony Levatino as an example, could have done an early delivery to give that baby a chance at life instead of intentionally killing that baby in
I don't understand how you can sit here across the table.
There are thousands of medical professionals who fight for both the life of the baby and the mother.
You can't tell me what my best friend's mother could have had done to her.
She deserved better medical care. She deserved better medical care than what she was told. That was unfair and wrong what she was told. And she wasn't given a choice.
She was given a choice.
No, they told her, you're going to die. They told her, you have to have this abortion. That's what they told her.
Informing her medically, she cannot deliver children if she had not had that abortion.
Did you know?
So why do you think that she should have a
just to be clear, in a late-term abortion, you have to remove the baby, right?
Yes.
And what is the difference between a late-term abortion where you remove the baby dead and an early delivery where you can remove the baby alive? One is an abortion and one is a life-saving act. What she deserved was a life-saving act for both her and that baby. And an early delivery could have been what she needed.
I agree because she wanted that child.
And that's why it's devastating that they told her that. It's wrong that they told her that.
No, but they were right.
No, how can you say that when there are
Because
thousands of medical professionals who say that abortion is not medically necessary? It's not my opinion. It's thousands of medical professionals who say that.
That's time.
I appreciate that, but you're not a doctor and you weren't her doctor.
There's thousands of medical professionals who say you can care for both mother and baby.
That's fine, but it's you.
I get to choose what happens to my body because I didn't get to make that choice with that assault. I didn't get to make that choice with that rape, but I do get to make the choice with what happens with that fertilized egg. And that is a problem. And when I am sitting here with a 10-year-old child who didn't have a choice about what happened to her body, to then say, you must carry that child until you give birth, that is unconscionable.
If I can respond with a couple things that are really important, I think. First of all, Rebecca Kiesling, my friend who was conceived in her mother tried to have an abortion. It was illegal and she couldn't access one. So she ended up placing Rebecca for adoption. And Rebecca goes around and says, what about my right to life? And she ended up meeting with her mother years later. And her mother said, I'm actually glad I wasn't able to end your life.
And I'm glad for Rebecca's mother.
If I can just finish, one of the key things that we need to acknowledge is that abortion isn't something that's going to heal. Abortion does. Abortion does. I'd love to respond to you. I'd love to just have a moment. Abortion can add trauma. It's another act of violence.
It does not add trauma. There is no evidence that abortion adds trauma.
If I may respond, in the state of California, 200,000 Medicaid patients, women, 150% more likely to commit suicide for those that had an abortion, those that gave birth.
There is no psychological evidence.
There have been a lot of studies that have been done that show that abortion can be profoundly traumatizing.
Make an argument of why the government or you or anyone knows better for my body than me.
So I'd love to respond if I may.
How you know better about my body than me?
So I don't know your body personally.
You're right.
Obviously.
You don't know anyone's body but your own body.
But what I can
shouldn't
say,
be making decisions for anyone else's body. If you would let me respond, I'd
love to respond to what you're saying. So your argument is that your bodily autonomy is more important than the unborn child's right to life.
No, they're equal. No,
okay.
You didn't listen.
So do you have the right to kill your unborn child?
My bodily autonomy.
Do you have the right to kill your unborn child?
I have a right to use my body and my organs however I see fit.
To kill your unborn child?
No one has the right to use my body or organs without my consent.
So does that mean you have the right to kill?
Son, how is it killing him? My 5-year-old
abortion
son,
is killing that child.
My 5-year-old son needs a kidney or he will die. If I don't give him my kidney, is that killing him? Is that killing him if I don't give him my kidney?
If I can respond, we can't have a conversation if I can't respond. An abortion is the intentional killing of that child. So abortion,
that is your definition. It's a medical procedure. It's a healthcare medical procedure.
If you would let me respond. So an abortion involves either poisoning the baby to death via an abortion pill. It involves suctioning the baby to death in a first trimester abortion. It can involve live dismemberment of that baby in a second trimester abortion, or in a third trimester abortion, it involves a lethal injection.
So what does that do with bodily autonomy?
In all of those cases, it's active killing.
Explain what?
Pause, Whitney. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
You voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you, Whitney.
And this doctor has a choice. He has a choice to decide between either saving this young boy's life or saving the life of, I believe it's a sponsor of the hospital. He chooses to save the young boy's life. This young boy grows up to be the titular monster, worse than Hitler. Does that child have a right to life?
Yes, every child has a right to life.
Even if they turn out to be the most monstrous thing you could possibly produce. Even if their life means the life ending of everyone here. Yeah. Does their life still hold true?
I believe monsters are not born, they're made. So just because a child might eventually do something when they grow up and become an adult doesn't mean we have a right to kill them before that. I don't know what went on in their childhood or the choices that they made, but at the end of the day, everyone has a right to life, especially a child. They're innocent.
Let's say this child grows up and their life is miserable to the point of where they would want to end their life. And that's going to obviously leave some kind of ricochet effect. Everybody's going to be desperately devastated by that. Would you say that the parent who believes that that is where their child's life is going does that child still deserve the right to life?
Are you saying that if a child is being abused, then we should be in support of killing that child?
Then let me be more specific. What would you say to me as someone who is a third generation suicide survivor, so my mother, my grandmother, and their lives were miserable?
I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm so sorry that that's part of your history and that your mother, your grandmother endured that. And I'm so glad that you're here. I think your life is awesome. And I think every life is awesome.
Now, would you say the same if you knew that I was living in a domestic violence shelter where I consider taking my life frequently? Would you still say that I don't deserve to not only end that life, but especially as somebody who did have an abortion, as somebody who had to make the decision to escape their abuser, their predator, their captor, as someone who was trafficked and pimped? So, would you still say that raising that child under those circumstances would have either made my life difficult, or would you still say that child has a right to life if I made the decision, I don't want to be tied to a predator for the rest of my life. I don't want to be tied to my captor for the rest of my life.
So if someone's dealing with horrible abuse, and I hope that didn't happen to you, but if you were dealing with I'm so sorry. That's absolutely horrible. You deserved much better. You deserve to be taken out of that, rescued from that, and given a better life. And that would be my hope for every person and what I'd want to work towards for every person, as opposed to saying death is the answer, or a suicide is the answer, or abortion is the answer. No. I think choosing life is always better. Our superpower as women is the ability to bring life into the world and nurture life. Men can't do that.
Our superpower of women is the power to choose. That's feminism. The power of choice. If you want to be a mother or you don't want to be a mother, that's feminism. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, you want to go to work.
But the difference, my friend, is this: when you're pregnant, you're already a mother, and we can't deny the scientific reality of that human life. That is a human life, a child, a son or a daughter that has rights too.
If you force women to have pregnancies and you force women to basically change their entire life, we're not forcing the men to do that.
Well, I think we should force the men to do that.
Okay, great. Well, have you met a man? You think they're going to do that? They're not going to do that. They're really not.
But what you're getting at, which I think is a really good point, is that we have this sort of approach in our society when it comes to sex and relationships, where men and women, and a lot of times men, I don't want to just say men do this, women do this too,
all genders,
where we treat this very maybe casually. We have this all backwards. Instead of looking at sex and relationships as something really beautiful, something you commit to for life, you sacrifice for the other person, you love that other person, and then if you conceive a baby, you love that baby, you fight for that baby. I think that is the view we should be moving towards as a society, instead of sex being casual. If you get pregnant, just have an abortion. You and I are clumps of cells, right?
100%.
But we're unique clumps of cells. We're individual clumps of cells that constitute a whole human. And at the moment of fertilization, you know what you got? You got a whole human. They're very small, but you have a whole human that just needs, you have a whole human at the moment of fertilization that just needs time and nourishment to grow, but has a unique genetic distinction.
But it doesn't always
from the
go
mother.
that way. So, for example,
you could miscarry. Yes.
Yeah.
The science shows at the moment of fertilization, sperm egg fusion,
the
you have
science
unique.
doesn't
That's
actually
when
show that.
It does show that you have unique individual genetic identity that's distinct from your parents.
The science shows that when an egg is fertilized, that there is cell multiplication.
But
that does
what
not
kind of
show
cell multiplication? It's not like skin cells.
Well,
it's not skin cells. What is it?
It becomes skin cells.
It develops its skin eventually. But what is it? What is it? Come on. What is it?
It's a mass of cells.
But what is it? It's a human embryo, right?
Well, yes.
That's developing rapidly.
But it is a clump of cells.
But we already said we are clumps of cells. So you're kind of using that pejoratively, like, oh, you're a clump of cells. You can be aborted. You can be miscarried. It doesn't matter. Who cares? You and I are clumps of cells. So it's a little dehumanizing. You're being a little dehumanizing.
Yes, I am being dehumanizing because it is a clump of cells.
But we are clumps of cells. We already, you acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So you're not wanting to dehumanize us, right? Why wouldn't you dehumanize us with that term? But you dehumanize the baby.
Actually outside of my body, there are no rights. Because if there were, my friends.
But I keep asking you why.
There were,
and you keep saying just because it's in your body. But why does that child not have rights?
There would already be laws on the books. And currently, there are no laws on the books.
It's not my right to tell you what to do with your personal life, but it is the government's responsibility to protect the right to life of every life in this country.
With what you're saying,
do you want the government to protect you from being killed?
You know, I want God to protect me from everything evil in this world. Absolutely.
Do you think you have a right to life?
I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee that I'm not going to walk out this door and get shot in the head.
But do you think if somebody tries to do that, you would hope someone would intervene?
Honestly, I'm just going to pray for the best.
Well, I would hope someone would intervene, and I want to live in a country where
I don't think you would,
there would be a penalty for that person that might hurt you.
If you really wanted somebody to intervene with the protection of life, you would be kind of, getting more background on these women and why they do the things that they do.
So I come from the standpoint that the laws in the United States should represent the general public's opinions. And when you look at the bell curve, the majority, upwards of 70% of Americans believe that we have the right to abortions up to a certain point. Everyone has a different view on when that life becomes a life. But I think that it's so wrong to only cater to the very farthest end of the bell curve when you're cutting off the rights from so many women whose opinions are valid and who might have so many different reasons to get an abortion, economic, just they're not in the place to have a family.
There are often Supreme Court decisions that happen, that are made, that do not reflect the general poll consensus of the country. And this is also the story of part of our history, some of our worst human rights abuse as a country. If you had taken a poll of the Deep South, you would have found them during the time of slavery that they were for slavery. That was horrible, right? But you don't take a poll and say, well, you support slavery, so slavery is just. So that's why we live in a democratic republic that also has a judicial system that also looks at what is constitutional, what is not. And abortion is unconstitutional because we have a 14th Amendment that provides equal protection under the law for all persons, regardless of the color of your skin, developmental abilities, your sex, your race, anything. You should have equal protection under the law. And the child in the womb has the same human person as the child will be when the child's born, and they deserve equal protection of the law.
The whole reason that Roe v. Wade was put into place, though, is because it was determined that it was too difficult to determine exactly when a life becomes a life.
There was no poll with Roe v. Wade to say, let's legalize abortion or not. That was actually 9 unelected men on the Supreme Court, 7 who decided that they were going to make abortion the law of the land. And it undid the laws of many pro-life states. I believe that putting life starting at conception is so unfair to the women whose lives are actually being affected by these long-term decisions. I understand that from your perspective, you think that a woman should have the child no matter what because it's too difficult to decide, like case to case or something. Well, and we're big advocates for adoption too, because if they feel they're not in the position to be a parent,
if the child is going to be born without a brain, if the child, they can place the child for adoption. It's not fair to make a woman go through all that, and because it is permanent damage to a woman's body to bring that baby along for 9 months. Just for a lot of cases, the reason that they choose an abortion is for their safety or for their long-term health effects.
Do you know the reason for over 90% of abortions?
Why?
They have nothing to do with safety. They have nothing to do with abuse. They have nothing to do with health conditions. They're purely done. They're called done for the convenience of the woman. And there's 1 million abortions a year, so it's hundreds of thousands of abortions that are done because the woman. My belief is that the laws should be put in place. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Women are dying right now from legal abortions. Women who take the abortion pill, 30,000 of them are going into the emergency room every year because of the abortion, the legal abortion pill.
Doctors are now in fear of malpractice.
The media is lying to you guys. The media is lying to you guys because legal abortion kills women. It killed Tanya Reeves in a Chicago Planned Parenthood.
I have a lot of friends who had abortions. They're live. I was talking to them yesterday. They're pretty chill. They're actually pretty great. They're in therapy because they made that choice to have children when they are ready to have children.
There's tens of thousands of women who go to emergency rooms because of the abortion pill. There are dozens of women who die from
if they had safe access in education, sex education early on.
Those were
women
safe,
and
safe
men
legal abortions that they were having.
Men and women would have access to education to understand sex.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Your human value is not defined by your active capacities. Because if we defined human value by active capacities, somebody who was the fastest runner, had the highest IQ, was the strongest person on the block, they would be more valuable and have more human rights than the person with a disability.
You can have a gradient of capacity, but still have a binary.
Would you agree that one is not more valuable than the other?
I don't agree with the premise because, for example, if I rub 2 sticks together, a flame is going to start eventually. After that ignition, it's a flame, whether it's a wildfire or a tiny spark. Prior to that, it's something else. So when you have
but if there's a spark, that's fire, right?
Yes, and when you have the sufficient connections in the brain,
and when there's a human embryo, that's a human.
That's not the spark. When you have sufficient connections in the brain to sustain a subjective experience, that's when that spark begins.
I think you're arguing from a position of what I would call ableism. You're saying that until that person has a certain, because you're saying that until they have
who does my definition exclude?
If you let me finish, you're saying that until that person, you're excluding people who have the active capacity for certain abilities. And I'm saying,
give me a type of person that is not encompassed by my definition.
Well, the baby with anencephaly or hydrocephaly, we were talking about them earlier.
But do you remember what I said earlier as well, which is that if someone is a partial or potential human, they should still be protected.
But
the reason you have an abortion,
logic, though.
No, it doesn't.
That is a
I value an acorn and I value an oak tree. They're not the same thing. And I would never sacrifice an acorn for an oak tree.
You're saying they have the value with hydrocephaly, but then that's only after 22 weeks. But even though they lack the same, they lack the same synapses.
It's not the same level of value. They don't have full personhood.
Drug addiction, sex work, everything like that. Yes, I'm a proud pro-ho. That is exactly what I do. But you're telling me how my child would feel. And what gives you the right? What gives you the right? What gives you the right?
I would love to respond to you. I think, yes, your child had a right to life. And I would say that I wish there were more people helping you at the time. It sounds like you were at a really rough time in your life. And I think that you mattered, that baby mattered, and you both deserved more help. That's what I would say.
The reason it's okay to kill the fetus prior to 22 weeks is not because it's just good enough itself. It's because it's the only way to resolve the conflict between the bodily autonomy of the woman and the fetus. If someone's born with anencephaly, their existence is not impeding on the bodily autonomy of anyone else. And then you want to take all reasonable steps to help that person, not harm that person.
I think we agree on bodily autonomy to a degree, because I agree that I have bodily autonomy, you have bodily autonomy, but I think my bodily autonomy ends when another human being's bodily autonomy begins, even before they're fully developed. Why does their autonomy outweigh yours, though? So it's not that it outweighs, it's that they're two lives. Like, it would not be right for me to be killed by you, right? I have a right to live. Yes. And similarly, if I had another body inside my body that was a developing human being, which is what pregnancy involves, right? Maybe one, maybe two, they have a right to live and to not be killed. So I don't have the right, even though there is a responsibility I now have, they're using my body to develop. That's how we all became in our life. But that child still has a right to not be killed. Parents have natural
Why does that woman not have a right to still have her bodily functions kept intact and have like her bodily autonomy kept intact? When you can deliver the baby, deliver the baby, don't abort it.
What is the womb designed for? What is the womb designed for?
Like gestation?
Gestation of what?
The baby.
Right. So the womb is designed for the baby. Sorry. Okay. Nice job. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Adam. I hear what you're saying. I agree that we have bodily autonomy. I have the right to not someone to come and hit me, hurt me, etc. But there's a very unique relationship when a woman is pregnant with another human life, with another body, and that's her son or her daughter. Whether she wanted to get pregnant, intended to get pregnant, when she's pregnant, there's that unique relationship that springs into existence with the existence of that new human life. And a few times it's been said today, well, the science doesn't matter. We're just having my opinion, my personal story. The science does matter a lot, because science can help tell us what is real and what is not real. And science does tell us when human life begins, and it doesn't magically begin at birth. Human life begins before birth, and human life begins at the moment of fertilization. And so, while I'm all for bodily autonomy, I believe that our bodily autonomy as women ends where another human being's life begins. And when I'm pregnant, there's another body inside my body, and they deserve the right to live. And yes, that's gonna mean maybe a few months of me trying to hopefully take care of my body because it's feeding that body, and then delivering that child. And if I feel I can't parent, then there's other options. But I still have a responsibility not to kill that child via an abortion.
Like, she's gross. That's what I think of Lila.
There were some women that shared that they had had abortions. Obviously, that can be really raw. I think that goes to one of the things that we try to spread awareness about, which is that abortion does hurt women, that abortion leaves trauma.
Honestly, I wanted to swing. I really wanted to swing.
Is there a middle ground where abortion is okay in some circumstances? I would say no. These are lives, human lives, and it's life or death for that child.